Okay, so thanks for watching and trying to understand how we're going to use our classrooms this semester in our HiFlex setting. So I am going to walk you through exactly what it's going to be like when we are using Zoom for both in-person and remote learners. I have my meeting here, so I'm going to start that right now. On our computers, Zoom does now require you to authorize audio, so there might be another window that asks you to do some authorization. That is fine. You can do a test run, test the speaker and the microphone. I do hear that, but you can also see here on both of these it will give you different options. It should be defaulting to what you need, but you can make some adjustments if you need to. So at this point, I do have a hear that, but you can also see here. Yes, okay, so it's recording me. It's using a flat mic that's on my podium, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So I'm going to connect with my computer audio. And yes, when we're in Zoom, we do have the options here to adjust the different microphones and the different speakers. So it should be using the Extron scaler most likely in all of these classrooms, which will put it through the speakers so all the students can hear the remote learners as they ask questions. And then there should be a USB audio codec, which would be the USB flat mic that is in most of these classrooms. There might be a couple unique classrooms that have different microphones, maybe Alt House 106 or Stockford Auditorium, things like that. But by mostly, it should be these settings. So you can toggle between different options. And you have also maybe used Zoom before and seen that you can have different cameras. So we are going to go through the different cameras today as well. I'm going to turn my camera on. So here I am. I am in Basler 314. Got some German maps behind me. And we are going to go through some of the basic settings that you're going to have to deal with. First off, just a reminder that we do have cleaning supplies, or there should be cleaning supplies in all the rooms. So one of the first things you should be doing when you get in here is cleaning your keyboard and your mouse. And then when you're leaving, also do it. So if you can, if you get used to it on both sides, then the next people that come in case they would forget, we do have it sanitized. So that's always a good reminder. Okay, so currently I am not using the camera that has been put into the ceiling mounted here. That's our Brio camera. So I can change that. So the Logitech Brio is going to give you the view that the students would be able to see if you had a PowerPoint up on the screen, or even if you weren't using the screen, if you're writing on the blackboard or the whiteboard. Along with that, though, and I'm going to show you how we can zoom in here. I mean, something to consider is going to be universal design and in learning. So trying to put out as much information that is accessible to everyone in the same way. So, notes or PowerPoints or anything like that. So our remote learners can walk through. So although, a lot of us will be writing on the board, you can still write the exact same things to reinforce, but it does help to have not necessarily a paper copy, but a digital copy, so the students are getting the exact same information. And in case something does get obscured from this view for a multitude of reasons, but the students still have the same content. So that's something to consider with your own pedagogy and how you want to give information out. On the computers here, we have a new program app that's just simply listed as camera settings. I put mine down, I'm on a Mac today, and I put mine into the dock. It should be under applications on Windows. I can also simply look for it by searching camera settings, and here it is. So that is what it allows you to make adjustments to the Brio camera that's up here in our ceiling. One thing that isn't quite apparent is that if I click these, it's not really moving, and that's because it is as far back zoomed out as possible. So once I start to zoom in, so I have my zoom in controls here, I can zoom into me, have it more focused on myself here, but also I could have it zoomed so it would focus more on the screen itself, or maybe the map behind me, anything like that that you wanted to show. So you have the adjustments through this application, and then again you can keep it open for easy access. I can minimize it so I can hide that, but now I have a different view. Um, so each room has some sort of setup that will allow you to show students. I'm going to show you the Samsung digital presenters. So these are what are called doc cams. They are in a lot of rooms, and so I'm going to show you the two ways that you can use that if you have one. If not, you will most likely have a webcam that's facing out into your classroom, so that might be listed as a Logitech. There might be other names for it, but you can play around with this before you're in class and test out what the different camera settings are. So in this case, I am using the digital doc cam. And so I put a document underneath it. Right now it is actually flipped. But if I move it out this way, you can see I can move this around, and then I can have it so the student perspective has some sort of connection with the remote and the in-person learners. So you can choose which camera view you want to show initially. And I am going to connect with a student here so I can get another student into this class. To admit. Okay, so now I have my one student that is in my class, and there's another way that you can pull in a third camera on this as well. So you may want to have the view of the students that are remote, as well as one of a screen or one of you as the instructor. So in screen share, we have a number of different options, and this is actually a good time to think about one other thing as we're working through. I know a lot of you have already used Zoom a lot, and maybe you have thought of these little tricks and helpful bits, but depending on what computer you've been using, we're going to want you to use the instructor machine here. So hopefully, you won't have as many of your personal information or tabs or things open, but always preparing your windows here so that they just have the tabs open that you really want to share, so you don't accidentally share something that was unintentional. So earlier today, I did pull up a YouTube clip that I wanted to show because it's very important and educational, of course. But I also pulled that out, so when I am in here and I click on screen share, I have a couple different options. I could show my whole desktop, but I do have two Chrome windows open, and this one I have pulled out. It's a YouTube video, and it's only that video. So that way I'm not accidentally opening up everything else on my desktop if I don't want to. The other option you have here is up at the top, we have basic, which is giving you a certain number of options, as well as advanced. And in advanced, there is content from a second camera. So this is the way you can give two different perspectives from the classroom, as well as having your view of the remote learners. So if I click content from second camera and hit share, that is then pulling in my computer view. So then I could be teaching, you can see me, you can see my face, and have that connection. And then over on the side, I also still have the view of the classroom and then my remote learners. So you can play around with that a little bit and decide how you might want to use those different cameras and see what works best. When I'm in here, it does also give me the option to switch cameras. So it will switch between the different views. So once I choose that I want a different camera, since I have three options, I have the ability of getting this wider view as well as the classroom. So I'm going to stop that screen share. And I am going to come back in here and just show you, because I think a lot of folks are going to want to maybe, well, in certain classes might want to show videos and things like that. If you do want to show a video, everyone watching the same thing at the same time, if I clicked on the YouTube clip here, you also want to make sure that you check this box that says share sound, and that's going to allow you to share the sound within your computer itself. So if I played this without that, they would see the video, but they most likely wouldn't be able to hear it. So if I click on that, I can hit share. And you might actually have, this is a good test. Okay, so I have my video all ready to play now, and if I hit play, that should come through and everyone should be able to hear it in the remote learners on Zoom, as well as obviously in the classroom through the speakers. So I'm going to hit stop share on that. As I've worked with a few people that have been in classrooms and I've actually taken on the role of the student in the remote learner, I have learned a couple things, and I have some best practices or some things to consider at least as you're using some of the main programs that you use for your class in a normal setting. So the first thing that we are going to look at is PowerPoint. Since so many folks do use PowerPoint, there often is the go-to is using the desktop application, so downloading your PowerPoint, opening up in the local application of PowerPoint. But there's two things to consider. One is if I open up PowerPoint here and I have this particular PowerPoint ready to go, especially on the Mac is going to default to something called presenter mode, and that allows you, if you have added notes to your PowerPoint here, that it will allow you to read those notes. But the problem is that if we do that here, so if I hit the presentation, my screen turns to this, and if we look at the other view of what the students would be seeing, they would see this too. In the classroom, the projector itself is just showing the main screen and not showing the notes view. So if you do want to continue to use PowerPoint locally, on the Mac, you will have to go into Preferences, and under Slideshow, it has this check mark that says always start presenter view with two displays. So we technically have two displays, the computer itself, as well as the screen, the projector. So if I turn that off, it should then, when I do presenter, so now you can see, or do presentation, you see I do not get presenter mode. So I can get out of that. And so that is one way that you can still use the local version. Another example was someone was wanting to use PowerPoint, but wanting to have students go into breakout rooms and then basically annotate a slide so they could come back around and have discussion. And in that case, it's going to be better to use the online version of PowerPoint. And so you can easily grab the link from your PowerPoint. You can share that out under the share option. So I could just grab the link if I wanted to. Copy link. I can throw that into my chat even, and send that out. A couple other things. You can do the broadcast option within Zoom, which will put a notification at the top of the screen. That is convenient, but it doesn't allow you to click on links. So anything that you want to have links to, you are going to have to put it into the chat function. So depending on what you have going on in your particular class, it could be a very lively discussion that you're using chat a lot. So some of the links might get lost. So maybe using a combination broadcast option to say, hey, I just dropped a new link in the chat, go take a look. And what that does is that broadcast puts it on the top of the screen here. So that is a way that you can use the chat to give links to someone, any sort of links, not just PowerPoint, and then also use the broadcast so everyone sort of is seeing the same thing at the same time. Just to clarify, that broadcast option is specific for breakout rooms. So that's a way that without you having to jump into every single breakout room and telling the students you know, a bit of information, it's a way that each room will have a broadcast message at the top. So again, you could, if you wanted to give them an update of something they're supposed to be talking about, you could put it into the chat, and the broadcast message doesn't stay up continually. So it's always good to put something that needs to be, you know, reviewed or read later into the chat itself. So if I wanted to use the online version of PowerPoint, so I could come back to my browser here and I have a particular slideshow set up here. So I could do the same thing if I did screen share. So again, I do have my Chrome version of PowerPoint. Because I have minimized my PowerPoint locally, it doesn't actually show in my share options. So anything you have minimized usually doesn't show up as something that is able to be pulled from. So if I did want to possibly have my regular PowerPoint, if I open that back up so it's not minimized and then go to share, now I have both my local PowerPoint version as well as the Chrome version. So in this case, I'm going to click that, hit share, and then I can do my slideshow just like normal. So here on my screen, I can still see my own view. I can see my students' view on the side. And this is the exact same view that's going to be up, as you can see in my small view up here, that's going to be on the screen. So I can do stop share on that and come back. Okay, so just a quick little review of the types of equipment that's in the room itself. You can see from my view here, actually, if I go to my speaker view, you can see on my podium here, I have a number of different things. And we do have this classroom camera setup, so this is mostly what's in the room. So for any room that doesn't have a document camera, like I was using this thing right here, actually I can't tell, sorry, this thing right here, my document camera, we will have most likely this Logitech camera, and so that might be used to capture the classroom itself so you can see the students, or the remote students can see the students in class. We have this Brio camera, and that's what's up here. That's actually what's being used this very second. I already showed you how to get to the camera settings option so that you can do adjustments on that, zooming in. So if I zoom in, you know, I can make some adjustments. It will take a moment, and it will try to focus and make sure that everything looks good. And then I've already shown you how to make those adjustments. And the same way with the mic. So this mic here, I do have it on my podium here. So this is, we're gonna talk about audio just for a second. I'm hoping that you can hear me pretty well in this particular video, but you are gonna have to work and try to test out what is going to work best for you. Initially, this mic was sitting on the table when I came in. And as I said, I've tested with other people in the classrooms, and sometimes I couldn't hear them as well, depending on how loud they're speaking. Some folks are going to be using a voice amplifier, so a little microphone that's attached to them and a little speaker that literally they can walk around, and it helps amplify in the classroom, you know, because we're using masks. And then that should help pick up with the mic. But best practice is what I found is if you are going to be up here lecturing, then you will likely want to put that mic closer to you so your voice is the most prominent. I understand that with different types of classes and different types of discussion, you're going to have to try to do the best you can with using this mic. And this is where the best practices come in of how you manage your classroom. So what you can do, I'm going to change this camera while we're at it. So let's see. Oh, look, let me talk. So what we can do is, first of all, at the beginning of the semester, talk about all the logistics and all the, you know, hiccups that we might encounter. And so what you can talk about is like encouraging people to speak up so that this mic is loud enough so that the remote folks can hear it, but also like those best practices. I think a lot of us have been in conferences and such, and someone in the audience asks a question and no one could hear it. So the best practice is the person on the stage that has amplification repeats that question. And so that kind of thing is going to be part of the process, and also making it feel comfortable for the students, both in class, but especially for the remote students, for them to feel confident and okay with interjecting that they can't hear you. So you don't want to be in the middle of a lecture and saying a lot of really important things, and a student waits 10 minutes to tell you that they couldn't hear you. So having that foundation of just being okay with it, as well as maybe having point people in your class monitoring the chat. So if you really have a reason not to have interruption, but I think the best practice is to allow them to just say, I can't hear you. But also having someone look at the chat and make sure that if someone has posted a question or something of immediacy, importance, we can pause for a second, focus on that, regroup, and adjust anything that needs to be adjusted. And along with the audio is also the best practice of trying to figure out how we can have these synergies and these connections between the students that are in our classroom as well as remote. So in this case, in some ways, the remote students, the students in class are going to maybe even feel more connected to the remote students, and the remote students feel to the students in class, because here on Zoom, everyone has a name. You can see their name as I mouse over. So this is Isaac Landis, this is Brenda Landis. But in the class, it's going to be harder. So trying to figure out what the best process is that as people are speaking and asking questions. So if I change my video here to the presenter, so here in theory are our students. So if one of our students raises their hand and says, asks a question, maybe having them say like, hey, Brenda Landis here. I was just wondering, so just getting people to know each other, if you do want them, to build that rapport with students, of figuring out how you can, as people are asking questions, maybe stating who they are. And I know that that might not seem like something that happens in a normal class, but we are trying to build this community. And so just thinking of those small little bits that can allow students to connect with one another, even though we have this kind of strange setup right now. And so the last thing I'll say just about the audio, so with our flat mic, I did say that when you're up here lecturing or being stationary in one spot, and you are the voice that mostly is going to be the most prominent and most important, having it here. But as you do have a more group discussion, you can move it to a table or an empty desk, something like that, that's sort of centrally located. And then also sort of do a little feedback with your students to make sure that they can still hear and ask anyone to speak louder, or replace the location of the microphone. So a lot of it is going to be about classroom management, about discussion, and understanding what works best for everyone, testing out the board if you're going to be writing on the board. Like I said, giving out any handouts, PowerPoints, anything that you would be writing on the board, also giving that as a handout so everyone has the exact same information and there's no barriers, be it a camera angle or light coming in from the window and having a bit of a glare, anything like that. We've done the best that we can, we're trying, but we're all going to have to adapt a little bit. So academic technology is here to help you. We're happy to do a call like this. You are here, and maybe I'm remote, and we can do a discussion. So we're here. This is a quick overview just to get you somewhat familiarized with the space, but you're going to feel best once you get in here and test it out for yourself, and then work with your students to make sure you all figure out the best layout and way that you can make the most of this semester. So thanks.